Thank you. You know, as Rotarians, we know a lot about service. And we know service and good service when we see it. So I'd like to take a couple of minutes here for a shout out for good service. Jose Cruz, the Senior Convention Servicing Catering Manager, would you assemble your staff and allow us to thank you for the wonderful service that we've had this weekend? And another shout out, you know, in every gathering like this, there's one element that you hope you really don't pay any attention to, and that's AV. Because if you're not paying attention to it, it means that it's working. And we have had a wonderful staff, first led by Esteban Blanco, a Rotarian from Arlington, as a volunteer here all weekend long, and his crew from PSAV. Esteban, thank you. And just so you know, Esteban has made sure that the videos of all of the speakers have been provided to me, and that we're up to date all the way through this morning. And all of those videos are already online at lonestarpets.org, that you can download them for free. So please do so. Thank you, Esteban. Now I'd like to introduce the head table. Starting with your right, we have Nancy Hathaway, wife of John Hathaway. John Hathaway, District Governor-elect, District 5910, and my clone. The best operating chair this Pets will ever have. David Shirley, past District Governor. Jetta Burton, one of the most gracious and patient people that I know. And her other half, I didn't say better. Will be more formally introduced a little bit later. And then to your left, we have David Berg, who led the Hall of Friendship for this year and the last couple of years. David, thank you. Then Andy Hagan, District Governor-elect, District 5930. And then if you wonder how these things really work, we have very detailed instructions. Here it says, Jan Sullivan, wife of Ian Sullivan, say something very nice. Now, if you notice the trepidation on her face, it's because I do have somewhat of a history of introducing my wife. For many years, before she joined Rotary, she would come as a guest in our club, and I would have to introduce her. Well, one time, I thought that I was introducing her by saying, I have as my guest today my wife, Jan. Well, apparently what I said was, I have as my wife today, Jan. To which the president of the community college said, I'll take her tomorrow. It's very easy to say something nice about my wife, the wind beneath my sails, Jan Sullivan. Now I'd like to call David and Hollis, if you would come up for a special presentation.
Well, Presidents-elect, are you ready for your new year? I want you to take a few minutes and stand, make a lot of noise, and let's really celebrate this year's 2018 Operating Chair, David Shirley.
Appreciate that very, very much. It's been my honor. I have enjoyed it. I appreciate the plaque. I will honor this and put it in a place of honor at my house.
Don't go too far. Yeah, set that down and then come back up and please introduce our keynote speaker.
Well, I have a very special honor today in closing this ceremony with a very special speaker. He gave me a very good bio. It's about 3-4 pages here. He must have wrote it himself by understanding this, because it's some things I just didn't know about him. And I've known him a long time, close to 40 years. If you really want to know the bio, look in your program and it's listed there. I'm going to introduce past president of Rotary International, Ron Burton, my friend.
Thank you, David. Sit down. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? I've already apologized to these people for having my back to them, but actually I could do this. But I won't. I was trying to decide on my way down the stairs whether I should go to the bathroom or just come on up here. And because you were standing and I didn't want you to stand any longer than you had to, I decided to come on up here. You know, I am delighted to be here with you this weekend, and I know Jenna shares that delight with me. It's always energizing to be with the most important people in Rotary. Pastor Director Greg said it today when he spoke at lunch, and he apologized to me for me maybe thinking I was the most important person in Rotary. I was one of the most important people in Rotary in 1983-84. I was the president of the Norman Rotary Club. You know, I was in the breakout rooms yesterday morning with President-elect Barry, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he asked a very intelligent question and made some interesting comments. And he happened to be, when he was in high school, a member of Key Club. How many people in this room were members of Key Club? Yeah. I was a member of Key Club in my hometown of Duncan, and we were part of the Texas-Oklahoma Key Club district. And my senior year, I was a lieutenant governor, and I loved being in Key Club. You have to remember, you may or may not know that Kiwanis started Key Club in 1925. Rotary didn't start Interact until 1964. We've been at the front of the line all the time, right? So I didn't have a chance to be in Interact because I graduated from high school in 1964. So now you'll figure out how old I am. That's good. Got you thinking. Well, I went to the University of Oklahoma. They didn't have a Circle K club, which is their Rotaract, and certainly there was no Rotaract there at that time. So I didn't have an opportunity to continue doing service activities at least in my mind, while I was in college. But I always thought, because of that Key Club experience in high school, when I got out of college and got a job and started making a little bit of money, that I would really love to join a service organization. And nobody asked. And finally, in 1979, I was invited to join the Norman Rotary Club. And I did. And I enjoyed it for about 9 months. And then I quit going. Some of you have heard me tell this story before. The rules in those days were that if you missed 4 meetings in a row, you had automatically terminated your membership. The club didn't have to do anything. You were just out. I think I missed 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 meetings in a row. And I got a phone call one day from a very dear friend of mine, one of my colleagues at the University of Oklahoma, who happened to be a past district governor. And he says, "Ron, I thought you wanted to be in Rotary." And I said, "Well, Gene, I thought I did too. But you know what? I know you guys have never used these excuses. I'm a very busy guy. I've got a lot of things to do at the office every week. And you know, Gene, that food at the Holiday Inn is pretty bad. As a matter of fact, it's so bad, I wouldn't feed it to your dog." And, you know, I kind of already know everybody in the club because of my position. And the programs, some of them are okay. Every now and then we get a good one. But a lot of those speakers are boring, and you know that. But I guess probably the biggest reason that I quit coming is I'm just coming to eat lunch. I don't have anything to do. And I don't need to belong to an organization where I don't have anything to do. If I'm going to spend my time, I want it to be productive. He says, "You know, that's a really good point." He says, "Would you do me a favor?" I said, What's the favor?" He says, "Will you come back next week and after the meeting meet with me and the incoming president?" And I said, "Gene, out of respect for you, and only out of respect for you, I will do that." So I went the next week. The food was horrible. The program was lousy. But I went and I stayed a few minutes after the meeting, and I met with the incoming club president. And we talked a little bit. I gave him my 4 excuses. And he says, "Well, I'd like to give you a job if you would be willing to accept it." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. The way I read the rules, I'm no longer a member of this club." He says, "We don't follow those rules." That's a good thing for you to remember. Sometimes the rules that Rotary has are stupid. And if it's working for your club, I would say keep doing them until somebody calls you on it, and then ask them what their authority is. If you're doing good service and it's working in your community, I say Godspeed. Anyway, he says, "Well, we're not gonna apply that." He says, "I would like to ask you if you would be willing to chair the Rotary Foundation Committee next year for the club." And you heard, I think it was Rick King, make the comment that you don't say no. I don't remember which one. You've had some incredible speakers. I hope you realize how good these speakers were. I'm the mop-up, and I'm the worst of the lot. So you just have to bear with me tonight. But I said yes. And I have thought many, many times about how different my life would be had I said, no, I am not going to come back to the Norman Rotary Club. I'm going to go back to my office and do my work. I certainly wouldn't be here this evening. I certainly would never have met probably anyone outside some of the people here from Norman, and maybe Duncan, our hometown, would never have met any of you. Now, your life may not have been greatly diminished by that, but mine certainly would have been. And, you know, that just points out the fact that we do have to, this is one of my favorite words, you have to engage these people. You heard the statistic that Greg gave today, how many people we lost. You've got to give them something to do. They have to have a reason to come. You've got to mentor them. You've got to make sure that they think it's worth their time and they're actually providing some kind of service. Now, the other thing I want to say about membership, because I really want to talk to you later about my favorite topic, our Rotary Foundation. But the thing about membership, it's not my club that's the problem, it's your club. You know, my club has all the people we really want. We know each other. They're wonderful people. And every now and then we might invite someone else in. But you need to be inviting people in all the time because it's your club that has the problem. And I think in many ways that's what we all think of. It's not my club. We're fine. It's the other club. So we all need to kind of maybe do a little reassessment on that and think about it. You know, I met a young man Tuesday at an event in Norman. I actually went to grade school with his mother. And he knew my name. We had never met. And I said to him, are you in Rotary? Because, you know, we have 4 clubs in town, and I don't even know who's in my club anymore. I go when I can. I think I've been 6 times this year. I have perfect attendance, though, so don't give me a hard time. And he said no, but he had been invited to a club, and he would really like to join Rotary. And I said to him, well, I will invite you to my club, or I'll get someone on my behalf to invite you in case I'm not there. And I explained to him what I do. And then I said, and I'll get you invited to the other 3 clubs in town. And you can enjoy the fellowship at each one of these clubs. And what you will see, as we all know, you will see that every Rotary club is different. Just like we are, they have their own personality. But, you know, we need to be looking for people and giving them that opportunity. And then we need to get them engaged. Need to get them engaged. You know, I want to kind of finish the Kiwanis thing with you. I've been invited to a Kiwanis club one time in my entire life. After all that stuff I did in Key Club, I still have my Key Club pins. Anyone still have their Key Club pins? All right, yes, I love you. I don't wear them anymore, but I still have them. So I'm the district governor of my Rotary district in 1987-88. And that was the year we funded the Polio Plus initiative, which is the rest of the story from Rick King last night. And we'll come back to that. So I got invited to the Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club. And I was delighted to go there. Like I said, I'd never been to a Kiwanis Club meeting. And they introduced me, and I got up and was talking to them. And I probably created a problem for myself because I told them that, you know, yes, I'm the district governor for the Southwest Oklahoma Rotary District. It was 577 in those days. That's before we added the zeros. And I said, you know, this is the line that killed me. You people are just as bad as Rotary is in terms of inviting people to your club. This is the first time I've ever been invited in my entire life to a Kiwanis club. And we have the same problem. We think it's someone else's responsibility. And the look of the audience out there, the daggers coming my way, would have, you know, it was kind of scary, actually. I haven't been invited back. I don't think I'm going to get invited back. But they were struggling with some of those same issues that we're struggling with from time to time. But, I really loved what Jennifer said this morning about membership, too, when she talked about we're looking for people who want to do service. One of the things that's one of my great pet peeves with Rotary International is how very much we like to stereotype people. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of hearing about the millennials. I'm tired of hearing about the baby boomers, even though I am one. I'm tired of hearing about the greatest generation, Gen X, Gen Y, and who knows what the rest of them are. What's the newest one, Greg? But the point is, I believe, and this has actually been proven by studies, and there was a graphic in the New York Times a couple of years ago, that in every demographic age group, the same charitable, eleemosynary service intent ran about 21% through every group. So I don't care which one of those groups you're in, there's a group that feels about service just like we do. Our job is to find out who they are and invite them to be a part of us. That's what we've got to do. That's critically important. Well, you've always heard that they decided to do Polio Plus in 1985. Yes, they did. The board voted on it and decided to do it, and then didn't do anything about it. They did tell Rotary clubs that they were going to raise some money, and they finally came up with this number of $120 million. Well, Rotarians, they need to raise $120 million just to get with it. So all around the world, Rotary clubs started raising money, and then the Secretariat goes, whoa, wait a minute. We need to get a little bit more organized than this. And you heard they hired a consulting firm and all those sorts of things. We spend a whole lot of money for consulting firms, and we've got all this expertise right in our own membership, but that's another story. Anyway, so we go to our International Assembly to be trained as district governors in Nashville, Tennessee, and we end up having special sessions on Polio Plus. We go for the full day. We had an 8-day assembly. We go for the full day, and for about 4 nights from 7 to 10 o'clock, after we had our dinner, we had sessions on Polio Plus. So when the incoming governors now tell me how tired they are in San Diego, I laugh in their face. You must be joking. What kind of a wimp are you? Seriously, we really had to work hard. And then we were given the task of raising that $120 million that year. And we were told from the stage, and I actually have a video of this, if and when you're successful, we will eradicate polio in 1 year. Did you know that we eradicated polio in 1988? At least according to that. Well, it's some 31 years later? Because that was in 87. We have 3 cases. You've heard all the statistics. We did raise the $120 million. And at the convention in Philadelphia in 1988, President Chuck Keller, who was our president, was able to announce that we not only met our goal, we surpassed our goal because Rotarians of the world contributed $247 million. We should have been able to eradicate polio twice, or maybe in half the time. Rotarians have always stepped up. So I want to share with you this evening, since I will be the chair of the Rotary Foundation next year, and I have been accused of wanting to be president of Rotary International so that I could be chair of the Rotary Foundation. And there may be some truth in that because I love our foundation. It is the greatest charitable entity, the greatest service arm of any organization. in the entire world, in my personal opinion. So obviously, since we have not finished the job, the number one priority is the eradication of polio. Now, our fundraising goal, we bumped it up a little bit. You saw a graphic this morning, if you were paying attention, about how much money Rotarians raised last year. $304 million total. That's the comprehensive. My comprehensive goal for 2018-19 is $380 million. Now, I'll tell you why I can bump it up a little bit. If you were in Atlanta, you heard Bill Gates commit to giving us $100 million if we would raise $50 million. And prior to that, it was 35 and 70. So that was at least 30 million of that was pretty easy to pick up if we do our 15 million. So that's not too bad. But our annual fund goal for next year is $137 million, and I think we can do that. I really believe we can do that. Do you think we can do that? I think we can. I really think we can. We've got, and we'll have other gifts such as some endowment funds that will come in from benefactors and bequest society members, Arch Clump Society members, etc. We'll have some cash gifts for term gifts on grants around the world, those sorts of things. I think it's very, very achievable. I really do. So we're going with that $380 million figure. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I need your help. I need you to tell our Rotary Foundation story. I need you to be willing to, just like in membership, ask people and ask them to support our foundation and tell them what it is we do. It's a great, great story. We don't get members without asking, and we don't get contributions without asking. So it's critically important that we do both of those things. My second goal is to have Rotary clubs and districts to continue to do grants and projects in our 6 areas of focus. And I not only want you to do that, I also want you to really think about your district grants. And I want you to get the most you possibly can out of that money that you have available to your money to spend in your own districts. Make your members feel good. Make them feel special. When I travel around the world, if you've ever been to Canada, or if you've ever been to the UK, or if you've ever been to India, everywhere you look is a Rotary sign or a Rotary project sign that talks about this was a project of the Arlington Rotary Club or wherever it happens to be. You don't see that so much in most parts of the United States, I have noticed at least. We need to put that kind of information out there. It's fairly easy to do. So, the trustees are we're coming up on the review for what was the Future Vision program. We're looking at that. I'm very committed, as much as possible, to staying with those 6 areas of focus. I can get it down to 4 very easily. I can put the 2 health ones together. I can put the achievement of peace as the overlying thing that we really need to be working on, because everything, if we do it correctly, everything we do works toward peace. I don't know where we're going to finally end up. But the point is, I could put any project you can name virtually in those 6 or those 4 areas of focus, and I bet you could do the very same thing. The third goal, we were given as trustees a list of unspent or undesignated district-designated funds. And the number that they gave us shocked us all. We were told by staff that there was $55 million of undesignated, district-designated funds that have not been spent. My first response was, I don't believe it. And I stand here in front of you tonight and tell you the same thing. We were able to get it down to $52 million for this last reporting period. When I got that report, I looked on there and saw my own district, and it said we had $114,000 that we had not spent. In the meeting, I did something you shouldn't do. I texted my district foundation chair, and I said, Mike, I'm sitting in a trustees meeting. I'm told we have $114,000. Well, are you aware of that, and is it true? 2, if it has it been allocated? If so, what's it been allocated for? 3, have you told the Rotary Foundation how we're going to spend this money? And he wrote me back immediately and said, yes, I was aware of the $114,000. It has been allocated, and it's been allocated for these things. No, we have not told the Rotary Foundation. I looked at the 10 districts that are represented in this room tonight. And what that report shows is over $2 million. $2 million of money, of your money, that you haven't spent. I don't believe it for a minute. I think there's some number out there. I don't know what it is, but I would be willing to bet that your district has allocated most of that. I'm certainly hoping that's the case. Because people get really funny ideas when they see a pot of money and they think nobody's paying attention. And someone said to me, well, you know what? The trustees just ought to take that money. I couldn't hold it back. I said, like hell they will. It's not their money to take. It belongs to the Rotarians of the world. And quite frankly, what we have to do, and I've got a former treasurer of Rotary International over here and a former vice president, another director sitting right here, we've got to find out and work with each district, find out what that number really is, and allow you to let us know where that money is going. One thing to get this off dead center that I did move, and it's in discussion still. The one change that I want to make to Future Vision, and I was on the committee every year but the first year, and I was the vice chair till I became the president nominee. The 50% that comes back to the district, you get 25% for district grants and 25% to be used for global grants. I want to free this 25% up and let you spend it any way you want to. It's your money. Your Rotarians didn't give that money to put it in a savings account. They gave it to do good in the world, to change the world. And I may not win that one, but I haven't given up yet, and I'm getting support from my colleagues. And we had a special committee that was put together to look at that, chaired by past President Bill Boyd, stellar person. So I have great hope that we'll get to the bottom of what that $52 million really is. Because, you know, I just think that's a bad message for Rotarians to have to say to each other, we're sitting on $52 million that you gave that we're just not spending. Well, we can't spend your money. We're not going to spend your money while I'm there. You have to spend that money. You know, there's one thing I really need to tell the presidents-elect before I get down to the most exciting part of our goals for next year. If you've read my bio, you've seen I've had a lot of jobs in Rotary. Of all the jobs I've had, the one I would really not like to ever have again is being president of my club. That is a hard job. That is a working job. You have to be there every week. You have to make decisions. You get all of the crap from everybody who wants to crap on you. You know? Seriously, it's a very important job. Thank goodness my club's a large enough club that I don't have to worry about it. And when I go up every year to get my perfect attendance pin, which I have like 38 or 39 years, I've lost track. Dennis Brigham, our incoming district governor, may know how many years I have. Invariably, as I'm headed to the podium and I walk by a table, some Rotarian at one of the tables looks at me and says, "Who in the hell is that guy? I've never seen him here before. How could he have perfect attendance?" But anyway, we'll finish a little bit with that. Yeah, I want to wish you the best on that. But let me tell you about the most exciting thing the foundation's done in years. When I finished being district governor in 1988, I asked the question, how much money is in the Rotary Foundation endowment? Because I figured there was a lot of money. Started in 1917. We had probably at that time 800, 900,000 members all around the world. And, you know, Paul Harris Fellows, all this kind of stuff. And I was told we had $2 million. Well, at Oklahoma in those days, we had well over 100 million, and I don't know what Texas had, and Texas A&M and other schools that are in this business. And I was absolutely shocked. And I said, you know, we need to do something about that. We need to allow Rotarians to make a contribution to our foundation that will outlast them. We need to let them fund their Rotary experience in perpetuity. And I didn't really come up with this idea. A guy named Arch Klump did. And he wrote about that in April 1929 issue of the Rotarian magazine. He thought it would be important for you to do things like plant trees that you will never sit under, that you could actually perpetuate your Rotary membership forever. But that just didn't catch on because of all kinds of things like depression, the wars, so on and so forth. And as you all know, nothing happened really in our foundation until Paul Harris died. And then we started doing the Paul Harris Fellow, and that's a wonderful program. I'm a big fan of that. But you know, we spend the money 3 years later. This is that $52 million you haven't spent. Anyway, you know, it's critically important, in my view, and I saw this firsthand in 1988 when we raised that $247 million for polio. Our annual programs fund really took a hit. And we didn't really have enough money to fund ambassadorial scholars and group study exchange teams and all the other programs that we had. So we had to really hustle around and put it all back together. So our permanent endowment fund tonight stands at $1.2 billion. And that's about $470 million in actual monies in hand, and the balance in what we call expectancies. People who have given us charitable trusts, have given us commitments of some kind or another that are real commitments that will come to the Rotary Foundation on their death or at some other point in time. But we have a goal. It's critically important that we set goals. I think some of you may remember we had a goal back in the 90s of reaching 100 million by Rotary's 100th birthday. And we did that well in advance. And we've had a couple of goals like that. But our new goal is 2 billion, 25 million by 2025. Can we do it? Can we do it? I got so wrapped up You have to be careful sometimes when you ask questions. I asked that question about the endowment, and they asked me to be a consultant to the development committee. And we put the Permanent Fund Initiative together back in the 90s. And about that time, it's probably about 1992, Jetta and I established our endowment fund at the Rotary Foundation. We thought it was the right thing to do, and we still believe that it was the right thing to do. And we funded it with various assets, cash, securities. Appreciated securities, great way to deal with a tax problem. Insurance policy, all kinds of things. And it's critically important that you think about that. I always tell American audiences that, you know, one of the things you can do that costs you absolutely nothing is to put the Rotary Foundation in your dispositive instruments, your trust or your will or whatever, and make it a contingent beneficiary. Doesn't cost you a thing. And maybe nothing will ever come to the Rotary Foundation. That's a very good possibility. Depends on what happens. But I've worked enough with people in my personal career. I've seen very few plans that were put together where everything fell in place as the person thought it would. And every now and then, there's no one left standing to take those assets. And what happens is those assets escheat to the state. Now, I love the state of Oklahoma, but not that much. I would much rather, if that happened in our case, that anything we had left over ended up at the Rotary Foundation in our endowment fund. Now, on your table is a brand new little brochure. And it talks about your legacy, Rotary's promise. We've just unveiled a brand new video that was shown for the first time in San Diego at the International Assembly. It's not very long, but it certainly touched my heart. And I want to share that video with you this evening.
You're a Leewood. You know what that means?
We work hard and we give back.
You know, someday this apple tree will be bigger than I am. We're leaving the future behind today. You'll see.
Giving to Rotary's endowment ensures life-changing programs will benefit generations to come. Your legacy is Rotary's promise.
So I would say to you, be the inspiration. Consider your legacy. Thank you.
Now, Ron, this is a special plate.
I've seen this.
You know, we can probably.
Is this number 6?
It's a collector edition. So, if you come back and speak a couple more times, you're going to have the whole set. We want to give you this to commemorate the 2018 pets for Texas and Oklahoma.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, it's almost over. Tomorrow morning, we have breakfast from 7:30 to 8:30. It's a buffet, eat on your own. There's no program, but there'll be no meal served after 8:30. And then the district meetings begin for those districts that are having the meetings on Sunday. If you drove in, make sure that the last thing you do is you stop off at the concierge desk and have your parking validated. It's a very easy process, save you a lot of money. And evaluations. The evaluations, continue doing the individual session evaluations, but there's another, on the app, there's another evaluation for the overall. Please fill that out. Tell us what you think of everything from the speakers. Be kind to Ron. The food, the service, everything, because we use those evaluations to make decisions for next year. Because every year we want to make the next year's pets just a little bit better. So now I'd like to invite Ryan Anderson to come back up and lead us in the singing of Let There Be Peace on Earth.
Please stand. And join me in singing. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as our Father, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you all so much. This meeting is adjourned.